Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the long-running Rates and Lanes podcast with your host, Rico Muhammad. I'm Chuck Snow, the co-host, and we're happy to have you on for another week. We missed last week it was Truck Drivers Appreciation Week, and we decided we appreciated all you folks out there, and we'd give you a break, let you listen to something else. But we were both busy traveling and doing some other stuff as well. So with no further ado, here's our host, Rico Muhammad.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. Speaking of Truck Driver Appreciation Week that we missed, we want to say that we definitely appreciate all of you guys and all the efforts that you guys do out there day in and day out, picking up America and bringing her back home to herself, as our good friend Dan Baker always says. We want to talk about a little bit about Truck Driver Appreciation this week as well, but we don't want to get too far off into the weeds. But I would love to hear in your feedback out there, ladies and gentlemen, your comments. What did you see this week as over the past week for Truck Driver Appreciation that really stood out to you? What was not just a banner at a shipper or a receiver saying "Happy Truck Driver"? What did you actually guys see anything that was real tangible that really made you feel like you were being appreciated? And I don't want to, we kind of did a show, but we kind of canned it because we didn't want to come off too negative, but we want to, I really would like to hear feedback about this. And I think that a show that gives some feedback from the perspective of the truck driver who's supposed to be being appreciated would maybe give some insight to some people to maybe take a deeper look and just, not just do the little arbitrary pull the banner out of the attic every year and put out in front of the building when guys come in. What are some tangible things? And of course, one thing that from my perspective, I would just really appreciate it that just being basic human decency, being able to use the restrooms at facilities, being able to get loaded and get unloaded in a timely fashion. I know those are all the low-hanging fruit, but definitely those are some things, but especially the decent human treatment, just being able to use the restroom. You got some places where you go and you get there and they get you in and everything, but they don't have any type of facilities for you at all, none whatsoever. You can't use the restroom. And those are the basic tenements of appreciation that I would love to see come back into the realm. Chuck, anything you want to add on the truck driver appreciation piece? I know you guys you used to be at traffics. What were some things that you guys did to make your people feel appreciated?
I don't know because I haven't been there for 3 years, but we used to, we would have little barbecues and things like that. But we really worked doing the best we could to make them feel appreciated, 52 weeks a year.
Exactly.
We did because, my history is from the road originally. I knew what it was like, and you have to give people respect. You have to work. You have to allow the work to work on their schedule, not necessarily the customers. It's the driver, and if the driver is waiting for 10 hours to get loaded, you can't, and he's got to move his truck a multitude of times and he hasn't slept. You can't expect that driver to get in the truck and drive for 8 or 10 hours straight when he's been up already for 15 or 20, things like that. And that's how we ran the fleet over at Traffics, and I believe it's still run that way. I heard something fascinating this week that I want to share with you and our listeners. And it was on Sirius 146, and somebody had called in, and what he said made so much sense. Trucking companies should just say to their clients and to their broker clients, yeah, we'll do that delivery, or we'll do that pickup. One thing, you need to make sure that when we get there, that driver has a restroom. If there's no restroom, no truck. That's it. Because this is getting out of hand now. Now, I realize there are a handful of people out there that don't have respect for people's restrooms, but they're far and few between. And I think if we start showing respect to the drivers. I think the drivers will start showing respect back. If there are some people out there that are not showing respect, they'll get weeded out pretty quickly.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I was going to ask you that question. Actually, that question along those lines. Should brokers start taking that more into consideration when they're dealing with potential shippers? When they're dealing with a shipper and they've gotten feedback that that this shipper is either a problem getting loaded and unloaded in a timely fashion and don't have facilities, does that play into whether or not the broker should continue to service that particular shipper, or is at the end of the day the money that they're making off of that shipper is probably more of a driving factor?
I have to tell you, let me put my broker hat on for a second. When you have a problematic shipper,
right,
or problematic receiver, what happens is your job as a broker becomes much more difficult, because now all of a sudden the word gets out very fast. You don't want, like I know some places, I know several places where nobody wants to go because, it's 12 hours to unload 3 skids. There's no washroom. You get locked in. It's like being locked in Leavenworth Penitentiary once they close that gate. And you cannot get Uber Eats there because of their security, et cetera, et cetera. So those types of places become harder and harder to service. So what you're finding is, to move that shipment, you've got to make 81 calls, and then you're on your 82nd call, somebody reluctantly agrees to go in, and the carrier will haul one load, and after that he thinks you're as bad as the shipper, so he doesn't want to haul for you or the shipper again. So you're not really solving any problem. I think the proper way to do it is for somebody from the company to go and have a conversation with the shipper and bring them up to date. That, you know what, the world's changing. We really need to accommodate drivers, because they're the ones that are delivering your shipments to you or to your customer.
And great point. I want to pivot back just real quickly. I wanted to touch on, because we used to do this a lot when we first started the show. We kind of got away from it, but I'm thinking we're going to try to get back to. I'm going to go over the diesel highway prices and tell people how much the fuel is going up or down, and also give just a quick little snapshot of what the different segments are doing when it comes to the rates. So right now we are showing that the current U.S. diesel highway price is at a U.S. average of $3.77 per gallon. That is up 4 cents from the previous week. So fuel is starting to creep up ever so slightly. But 4 cents per gallon is nothing to necessarily sneeze at. That's still when it comes to the bottom line, and it correlates to the number that I'm getting ready to read off right now for national spot market rates. The U.S. national spot market rate for dry vans is down by 1 cent per mile from the previous week, showing an average price per mile at $2.05. And this is line haul this is an all-in rate. This is including fuel surcharge. This is not just line haul flat out. This is including a surcharge if you're calculating that into your rates. And flatbeds are showing that there's no change, stayed flat at an average of $2.51 per mile per week for this week. And reefer moves down by 1 cent per mile, showing an average of $2.44 per mile on the average for reefers this week. So if you combine that with the fact that the fuel is going up 1 cent per mile, you're losing 1 cent per mile on your revenue, and on your cost side, you're having to pay an extra 3 or 4 cents per mile. It adds up pretty quickly, and because we know that at the end of the day, the bottom line is what can we do to keep, how much money can we keep, not how much money we can necessarily make.
Yeah, and there's not, you know what, you're getting squeezed at both ends. It makes it very difficult, especially in this market.
Right. So now pivoting back, Chuck, we were talking about the situation with the, don't want to, when you're dealing with problematic shippers and receivers, and as a broker, I'm actually put your broker hat back on, and you know that you're dealing with that situation. If you have a shipper how long do you try to work with that shipper to try to inform them that, hey, we're having problems getting your freight covered or being able to service you because of the unloading conditions? What are some ways that we can do to work with you guys, or some things that you guys can do on your end to kind of help make you a more desirable customer? Or what has been your experience when dealing with those problematic shippers? Or are those shippers and receivers just like, this is the way we do it, come hell or high water, take it or leave it? What has been the attitude? And if you can, give us an example of both. If you have experience of dealing with someone that did take advice and was trying to change, and what was the experience like? And if the opposite is true as well, I'd love to hear your perspective.
Well, we've had both. We've had the ones that were very difficult to deal with. There was no washroom facilities. They took a long time. There was just a negative attitude towards the carrier. We were dispensable. We were replaceable. Our carriers, whether it was our truck or we were brokering it out, the whole attitude was, I can replace you in 5 seconds. I really don't care. You would go to talk to them about the problem, upcoming problems, and they would go, and I kid you not, I saw this in a meeting when I'm talking to the founder and CEO of the company, and I gave him some heads up, and he goes like this, like he doesn't want to hear it. Well,
how childish is that?
And the funny part was, these guys owned a bakery, a large industrial bakery where they baked a lot of no-name cookies, lower end stuff for prisons and things like that, for lunch programs and things like that. And cost was important, and they kept their costs down, but they were impossible to deal with detention, with damage, with lack of bathrooms and everything else. And it got to a point where, you know what, it was just not worth it. And I walked away, and they begged me a couple times after that to come back. And then they called me after I retired and said, listen, could you come visit us? You know what? I never did, because they weren't working with me when I was working. Why should I work with them when I wasn't? Because they would never listen. And then I had other ones where they would say, hey, listen, it's taking a long time to get us a truck. We're having to wait to get trucks. What's going on? And I'd say, can I come and see you? And I would go and see them and say, listen, we're having a problem. I'm not your supplier. I'm your partner. So you need to listen. And because you don't want to be adversarial. You don't want to come in as a supplier.
Right.
You want to come in as a partner. And I said, I'm your logistics partner. And as your logistics partner, we're running into problems. I've told your people downstairs, nobody wants to listen. You guys are taking way too long to load. The drivers get paid by the mile. They don't get paid by the hour. We can't be waiting for you people to make the product and then load our trailer while the truck is waiting. Number one. Number two, there's no washroom facilities here. What's the driver supposed to do? And you know what? They accommodated us because it was important for them to get the product to market.
So I think that, and I could be wrong, I don't know. I'm just speculating. I'm thinking that maybe you run into these situations dealing with the problem shippers, mainly when you're dealing with the larger brokerages, because I don't know if the larger brokerages are taking the time to go into a facility like that to just, because they're getting so much volume or whatever, it may not be on their radar to look at it, to try to look at things from a more realistic approach, from having a little bit of empathy where their partner supplier is concerned with being able to continue to provide them with the service that they want.
I got to tell you, even the largest of brokers, they know pretty quickly when there's a problematic shipper, because what happens is your biggest brokers will try, and your best brokers will try to use the same carrier on the same run all the time, because that really works well for the carrier, because now all of a sudden he knows or she knows that they can get a load from Atlanta to South Carolina or Atlanta to New York. It doesn't matter, from that shipper every Wednesday. So it works really well for them. If as long as it works. If it doesn't work, then all of a sudden that broker has to start going out into the board again, looking for a new carrier, vetting a new carrier. Every time you vet a new carrier costs at least $100 minimum. So it's coming out of the broker's profit every time he has to vet a new carrier for that customer. So where some of the smaller brokers might think they're making money on these shipments, they're not.
And picking your brain again from the broker's perspective, and when you have when if they know, say that your customer, the shipper or receiver, knows that they have issues with getting things done in a timely fashion, or how are they when it comes to, okay, we're going to pay for the attention? What is their perspective from on that end? I love that.
Some are a hard no, we're not doing it, because especially where we always found, if it was a real, for example, loads to dry loads that would, or even reefer loads that would fit in reefers. Okay, so it could be dry or reefer,
Right.
going to places like California, where there were steady backhauls pretty much all the time. Those ones were very, very difficult sometimes because there were so many carriers offering that service. So that makes it harder. They can mistreat the carrier any way they want to, and the carriers will come back for more because they need those loads, and that's where we cause the problem as the motor carrier by not, but we're willing to accept that poor treatment.
Yeah, shifting gears a little bit again when it comes to this whole thing. I was listening to Freightways, State
Right.
of Freight, and we talked a little bit about it with Dean, and but numbers are starting to show that we're starting to see a lot more carriers, a sustained exodus from the industry. Normally they say the numbers normally spike during the end of the year, but that we're seeing, and that the number of new entrants kind of always balances out from the number of people that are leaving. But we're starting to see, and what they were speculating is that you're starting to see a lot more, a much more sustained exit from the industry, which is kind of helping to, of course, like we always talk about, the supply and demand aspect of the business. So we still have far too much capacity right now in order for it to make a significant boost in rate, so to speak, because we still have a lot more. But they're saying that you're seeing a much more sustained exodus from the industry, which is going to help with getting us through this great freight recession, I guess you could call
It is
it.
great. It's the worst freight recession I have ever seen.
Yes.
It's only it's even worse than when the free trade agreement, the original free trade agreement came out about almost 40 years ago. It devastated Canada. It gutted us at the beginning, and we had to learn to work with it. And this is reminiscent of that. I think this one is even more severe. There's no end in sight for this one. But although I believe in the U.S. it has bottomed out. I was listening to something the other day, and they believe that we have finally hit rock bottom. Now we may stay at rock bottom for a while, but it's better than getting worse.
Yeah, I think that there's also a new proposal about the H-1B visas. So yes, probably 30 minutes ago, White House tries to tramp down on corporate panic for high-skill visas, which is the H-1B visa is the one that they're using as well. Trucking companies are also using to do the uh, bring in the foreign drivers as
Yeah.
well.
You know what? That's not, it, we did it during, we allowed for it during a very difficult time, and we don't need it now. And I think we need to be like every other country in the world, and you do what you need to do while you need to do it. And we don't need to do this now because we have enough capacity. We have too much capacity.
So
And
it says here the news story kind of. I'm gonna try to read the headline really quickly. H-1B visa fees news highlights: President Donald Trump has issued a sweeping order imposing a $100,000 fee on all H-1B visas. So this is the headlines coming out as of about 30 minutes ago. It's a $100,000 fee, one-time fee to apply for the H-1B visas.
well, you know what? I got to tell you, it puts a stop to it pretty quickly.
Yeah, so that if in order for someone, they got to be a pretty special person to shell out that $100,000.
They must be willing to do very special things. That's all. I don't want to get into it, but you know what? Stuff goes on.
Right. So that in conjunction with the people leaving the industry and the English proficiency law being held into effect, there it seems to be that there's being a significant it's significant enough to kind of, it's looking like it's helping drive down the capacity is what they were saying on FreightWaves, and I can see, I'm not sure if it's going to be enough to make a real significant dent, but we definitely are starting to see that we're not even moving the amount of volume of freight as we moved back in 2018 this year
That's
yet.
right.
So
Yeah.
it's still if we can start getting some volume back, I think that we might be the worst we may have the worst in our side view mirror, so to speak.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know about getting the volume back. That's going to take a while. There's so much going on now. The biggest thing is, we're still battling this tariff thing. You may not see it as much being in
Oh
this,
yeah.
but big business keeps saying we can't plan with the uncertainty of these tariffs. It's just too difficult.
Well, the American farmer is definitely taking it on the chin. I've seen a story with some soy farmers, and they have such a surplus on soy right now because the number one customer for soy was China, and China's not buying any soy whatsoever. And so this thing is having some, I'm sure, very unintended consequences, but they are consequences nonetheless. And it's going to be interesting to see how all of the different moving parts come together and what the results of those moving parts are. But I've seen that there was I seen an interview with the head of some farmers agency, and he was talking about his the membership in the farmers that were soy farmers, and they were just you could see and hear the concern in his eyes and his voice during that interview.
Oh yeah.
He was saying by this time of the year they would have 30% of their crops would be spoken for, and they haven't sold one grain to China yet. And
We have the exact same thing in Canada with canola. I don't know if you're familiar with a crop called canola.
right.
And our biggest customer for decades, and we've grown more so in the western provinces. We have grown huge amounts of canola to satisfy the Chinese market, and I don't know whether it's a good idea or bad idea, but we made it very difficult for China to export electric vehicles to Canada. And apparently they're building these incredible electric cars that are beautiful. They run well. They're the real deal, and they're very inexpensive. So we basically banned them or put such a high tariff on them. And you don't do that to these people because they don't like to lose face. So what they've done is they have banned Canadian canola, and that was we have no market for it. We've grown, and I'm talking tens of thousands of acres of canola with no market. And you have to look, farming and trucking, they're the same business.
Right.
The only difference is with trucking, we usually get paid every week or every month. Farming, you get paid once a year after you bring your crop in. So
Right.
these people have worked the entire year, gone out, bought seed, bought fertilizer, bought everything, bought equipment, paid for labor, paid for diesel fuel, and now all of a sudden, no money.
Right.
Silos full of and granaries full of soy and canola, and no market. So they're in worse shape than we are.
And that stuff has a shelf life to it. So it's
So our governments right now, if they were worth their weight in anything, would find another market for this product, because it was. But why should the farmer suffer for what some politician did? The farmer doesn't really care about the I know the Canadian farmer is not worried about electric cars.
No.
I can't speak for you guys down there.
Well, I think that here in North America, I'll just say North America to cover both Canada and the United States. I think that the auto manufacturer, which all of this ties in together, the auto manufacturer is not really cleaning up. They're not selling cars because they tried to pivot a little bit too early before the public was really ready for these electric cars. The demand is just not there. And I think that the electric cars, and even buying a car is damn near like buying a house nowadays. It's buying new cars is really, really expensive. If you went outside and did any kind of shopping for a new car right now, nowadays $60,000 for and I don't want to call out any brand in particular, but what used to be called economical cars or whatever, you're spending $50,000-$60,000 on a car pickup truck now. I mean, pickup trucks, my God, you looking damn near $70,000-$80,000 for a brand new pickup.
Now, in fairness, they're pretty fancy compared to the pickup trucks that were available when I first started driving, 50 odd years ago. They're four-door, they're automatic, they have radios, they have power, everything.
Well, I mean, no, actually, I think a brand new, let's say, for instance, entry level Ford Maverick is $32,000. I mean, you can't get, this stuff is just actually expensive. And so, like I say, the cost of everything is continuing to go up, which as us as business owners and truck drivers, we got to be much more conscious and make sure that we're trying to do everything that we can to keep as much money as we can, to try to be very conscious of the bottom line right now. It's not like I said, it's really not about how much you make, it's about how much you can keep. And right now we need to be trying to keep as much money as we possibly can to kind of weather the storm out. But the automotive industry is hurting, so therefore that's hurting shipping as far as the suppliers for auto parts and things of that nature. And like you say, you got more people that are trying to transition over to electric, so that means less components, because electrical cars have much less components. And then housing is still taking on the chin as well, so therefore flatbeds and things of that nature, when it comes to moving the lumber and things of that sort, is not moving nowhere near, because housing is still, you have builders. You have builders that are much more cautious on trying to build new houses right now, because everybody's kind of at a impasse, so to speak. Yeah.
Well, I have to tell you, Toronto, near where I live, had more cranes in the sky 3 years ago than every other city in North America put together. It was crazy. And the only cranes you see in the sky right now are ones where they're finishing jobs. The job was started. A lot of projects have been put on hold until they figure out what the hell's going on, and I believe Canada, don't quote me on this, but I believe Canada is in a recession right now, the start of one. And by the looks of things, it's going to be a long, nasty one. I don't think the U.S. will be in as bad a situation as we are.
Well, hopefully we'll take it under advisement. We're going to try to condense down and push down on the show a little bit. So I'd love to hear feedback from you guys, ladies and gentlemen. I neglected to say at the top of the show, if you guys would do us a huge favor, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the show. If you found any of the information that we talked about today helpful, useful, entertaining, and by all means, hit the like, share, and subscribe button. It doesn't cost you a thing. It helps us get out into a bigger, get the show pushed out to a bigger audience, and we need all the help we can get with doing that. If you like this kind of content and you want to see us continue doing this type of content, help us out by doing that, hitting the like, share, and subscribe button. Chuck, with that being said, while we get ready to wrap this one up and put a bow on it, tell the good folks how they can find you and reach out to you.
Yes, if I can help any of our listeners in any way, no matter what your problem is, I'll certainly try to shed some light on how to solve it. Just send me an email to chucksnow280@outlook.com. Put your phone number on it so I can phone you, and we'll try to solve your problem. And with that, Rico, I'll let you back her in a hole for another week.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate your time and attention. As always, you could have been anywhere else in the world, but you took some time to hang out here with us, and we greatly appreciate it. So until the next time, we want you guys to stay safe out there, stay healthy, stay profitable, keep it in between the mustard and the mayonnaise, and we'll talk at you. God bless you and good night.